Okay, Emily, this video has eluded me for days. I'm so over living this, but I think if somebody sees it from the beginning to where we're at now, maybe it'll make sense. I'm a devoted man. I try to do things unlike any other dad, any other man. I wanted to be a father. I've had this stolen from my life before. I know what it feels like. And, I swore to myself it would never happen again. So we need to understand that I had a long marriage with a woman that comes from childhood trauma. I had no understanding of it. I tried to study about what was going on with my wife. I tried to do everything. We went to therapy. I went to the rape counselors. I supported her as much as I could, all the way down to selling everything I owned to move me and my family to Florida on a whim that, it was really good for me. Call it my spiritual awakening. Call it whatever the government wants to call it. Some of us wake up to that we don't want separation. We see what creates bad kids for the future, just as I do. I'm a very educated man. These things right here have been my best friend for 4 years. I have not stopped listening to content for 4 years. And not your news media, not your programming. Yes, I'm the guy that says don't eat processed foods because they're killing you. They're making you act a certain way. Yes, I'm the guy who tells people don't drink alcohol. It's going to do bad things in your life. It's going to make you do bad things. But I'm being punished for being educated on health and wellness. I'm being punished on being educated on how to become more successful. That's all this has been. My marriage wasn't easy, but I was always trying to open up a person's eyes to, hey, look at the energy here. And even after I tried everything, came to y'all for help. Like, there's no support for any of this type of stuff in this nation. I had to move my entire family and then really start getting abused way more than I already was. I started to be a punching bag, like a literally punching bag, to get punched in the face for no reason, to have cups of coffee thrown in your face, to have your laptop snapped in half, the way you're making money for your kids, to have a person shut down every day while you're trying to make that money for your family, to leave you with the kids to do a job, and just because they don't know how to cope with their emotions. I want people to understand that I understand my wife. She's lost in a device. She's lost in a whole nother world. All right, that's how her generation was raised. She had a hard childhood, and now she's taking it out on me, and I'm watching the government allow this happen to the guy who took care of the kids. I've always been the rock. I've always been the one putting themselves out there. Okay, and now here I am again, because all I wanted to do was clear my name. Like, okay, the old me, if you look me up, yeah, you could attach that type of life to me, but not anymore. And it's not fair that because of a woman, I have to still live this way. I want Fulton County to understand why I feel like I have a lawsuit, because of things like this. Because now going through eviction because of this case, look, what more do I have to prove? I said from day one that a judge forcefully made me bring an attorney into a case that I didn't need an attorney on because there was no evidence, because I didn't do anything wrong. So I can see this for what it is. I have the texts in my phone to show how me and my wife's relationship was up to these moments. And I can show you exactly what she did to get her evidence to be able to even introduce any type of TPO, of taking off of my kids and withholding them, knowing she would get a reaction from me through video. Because I'm a creator. I've been telling our story. Go back through this content that's linked to this page. I'm sorry I know the things I know, but I know them. Okay? Just like I know what my kids need for a good future, and they need proper parenting. They need sober parents. They need high energy parents that are going to teach them to love themselves. I never down talk my kids. I never tell my kids go to the corner. I never time out my kids, because they're not here for that. They're here to experience life. Now, I had a guardian ad litem judge my teaching ability, and I want you to understand that the 10,000 hours in his head is to teach the next generation that, we don't want to eat processed foods. We don't want to entertain this stupid behavior. We don't want to drink alcohol. We want to take care of our bodies. We don't want to have all these lustful emotions. We want to understand that as young men, we don't give up our energy all the time to just look at what this society is becoming. I guess that's why this video has been hard for me to produce. There's a lot of truth in it. And the truth is I became a very well-educated man on what was going to destroy my children's future would be drugs and alcohol, domestic violence. Okay, now since this has started, I said that I was forced into a hole by an attorney holding my kids like candy to get a visitation order. Because this lovely state, you could be the good guy and just keep helping people. And then one day they can just take off with some convict-looking dude who is literally, they take off because this is what scared people do when they're living in that life and they know that I'm a spiritual dad and my kids are starting to speak about what they're seeing, about how mommy's getting beat on and how he's getting thrown down. And then they legally take off with my kids as that information's coming to me. And now I start screaming at the system that this is happening to my children. My children are living through this. Now keep in mind, I had control and custody of my kids up till this moment. I had majority caretaking responsibility since I've been back in Georgia. And I did a damn good job. My son wasn't nowhere near as bad as he was his speech. He was way better, way more ahead because he was eating whole foods. He was engaged outside in life and understanding the act of service and love that we have for humanity. So that's what I instill in children. But what we have here in Georgia is a system instilling poison in my kids and me screaming from day one that I got set up. And it really does just look like a setup because from day one, I've been screaming that my kids went through this. I proved that they did. And what am I still fighting about here? I proved with audio evidence from the other person, not like that's her audio evidence. Like she admitted to 107 times my kids went through domestic violence. 107 times. My kids had to listen to that. I became the spiritual non-drinking father who doesn't fight because I didn't want my kids to grow up in that experience. And this is where people are like, you shouldn't be throwing around the word Sue and honey. But no, look, you're extorting people. I'm not like everybody else. I'm a sovereign man. I'm a humanitarian heart. I want to try to figure out how to help everybody. I understand that my life and the way I got brought up took me down the wrong paths that caused me to be a hellion for a lot of my life. And I don't want that for my children. I don't want it for anybody else's children. So here I am as a teacher now that has this information because in my own life, when this situation was shut off for a little while, my life got really good and things were looking up and I got my paid for office. And you know what? At the end of the day, without your children to be there for the magical moments, what's the point of any of it? So here we are. Let's go back through this case just a little bit, shall we? Why do I have court papers where I had divorce hearings where my attorney didn't notify me? Almost like, let's not bring what's happening in Fulton County to DeKalb's eyeballs, right? And let's not even mention the court appearance where my own attorney, who's been studying law for 30 years, didn't know that she could introduce the evidence to the DeKalb judge for the emergency hearing to show what my wife's behavior is with children. Is that what's going on here? Let's just sweep this under until this thing is behind us. This isn't fair. I filed for appeals. I've done everything in a man's power to prove my innocence. During this fiasco, this woman has denied me my rights. There's no family portal ever introduced where I can speak to my kids, so I'm being totally alienated while dark energy stepping in on my bloodline. Not yours, mine. This woman is practicing witchcraft openly on social media. And it's okay. Like, the system supports this. Because obviously y'all do, because you're running me out of money to eviction. All my bills have been paid. Like, I paid a guardian ad litem $4,000. They weren't doing their job the way they were supposed to. You removed them. That money should have went to the next one. Case closed. No, that guardian ad litem flipped my entire life upside down, started to damage my business. We lost huge accounts. I fell behind, and here we are. Nice and far behind because a judge just didn't want to admit she made a mistake. There was no evidence from day one to support any of this. You'll never find a bad piece of content about my wife up until the dates of her stealing my children, which was damaging to me. So, I mean, let's just say I was a little bit mental unstable when I was making videos. These guys want me to play that card. It seems to work for everybody else. Boo-hoo, I had a bad childhood, so the guy who's still married to me has to suffer. Look, I haven't dated. I haven't had sex. I do one thing. I study. I try to advance my life. I try to be a bigger service here. And then I'm up against somebody who is having babies while married, saying they're engaged, multiple partners, multiple sexual relationships, domestic violence, like multiple domestic violences. People are going to jail. Her last one's on a run still for domestic violence. And here we are picking on the spiritual dad, screaming that, hey, you guys have my kids locked in hell. And it's okay. So, what do you expect to, look at this. Insanity. This is why I got out of my marriage. Okay, I didn't want my kids learning that stuff. And now the government is purposely instilling it. And don't get me started on the public schools. I am not a public school guy. I know what my kids need to know to grow up into a wealthy life experience of inner joy and happiness, of actual pleasure in life. I'm sorry that some of us know this stuff and we want to instill it in the next generation. But you're not going to put your mind poison into my kids and start telling them about the birds and the bees in second grade. I hope more people wake up to that. Come on. If there's a guardian ad litem actually watching this, look at where our world is going. Don't you want to stop this? Slow it down? That's what I'm trying to teach here. If people like my wife keep getting the power to raise the kids and making my kids think that life is hard, no, my life was very balanced. I had it figured out where I could have been a full-time dad, kept my kids in school every day, and kept my life floating perfectly. This woman's over there, eviction after eviction after eviction, black mold case after black mold case, after moving, bouncing here, bouncing there, and that's stability for my children. Like, how are my children ever supposed to be successful adults if you're allowing them to be instilled with poison and stupid behavior and poverty and separateness? I'm a spiritual teacher that knows for single parents to ever thrive and to become anything, that behavior has to fall. And so, yes, here we are again. Like, this woman has been in contempt, went off the drug fest all my weekend, for me to have to go down there on a Sunday, my last day of visitation, to get my kids to take them to the hospital, find out one's got pneumonia, one's got upper respiratory, and mom's off doing drugs for 4 days, and it's okay by the system. She drove right past me on my weekend, said there was a conflict. That's okay by the system. This is parental behavior. This is what we support here in Georgia. So yes, I'm starting to feel like a little bit worried about my own personal safety in this state when it comes to the political and the way that y'all want to raise the next generation. I feel a lot more aligned to Florida, and the governor over there. And, I'm going to try to probably get in touch with him as soon as possible, because from day one, I said there was no evidence to ever put a TPO on me, because I'm a sovereign man. I helped my wife every time she fell down. I went through 3 or 4 evictions just being that yes guy. This woman took off during Corona. I raised my kids alone. I was able to do it with a bicycle and a bike trailer, and I did it well. I kept my kids outside every day, engaged in life. Communication with other kids of other areas and life lessons for my kids. Teaching my kids what they really need to know. Why is that not supported? Why is this behavior supported? Drugs, alcohol, borderline prostitution on the internet, witchcraft on the internet. But it's not supported for a guy like me to sit here and tell people that life is love and energy and empathy and understanding. And again, I have love for this situation. It's just too clear that there's a big problem here. And hey, I have faith that a lot of people inside the system are waking up to their heart center and saying, all right, maybe we should educate society more on health and wellness, and we'll see a lot less of the same people. But we don't do that as a society. That doesn't make money. Look, at some point in time, you're going to have to stop and look at your life and see what you're doing for money. And yeah, it might give you a luxurious life, but for some of us, it destroys us and puts us through eviction. Just to try to prove that, look, I said it. There was no evidence. I submitted my evidence. This judge fumbled and bumbled and then picked on me because what? I don't know. She didn't like me. That's all I can say. Because I submitted my evidence. She got my evidence. It was right there. The other party couldn't submit their evidence. Then lawyers are thrown in there. Why? Why did that ever happen? Somebody make that part make sense. Why didn't I ever get put in some kind of portal to still talk to my kids, to still instill good values into my kids? And now this woman's in contempt again. And I have a guardian ad litem, which, hey, I appreciate you actually messaging me now, but I shouldn't have to talk about suing people. To get you to understand, you have the evidence of what my kids were put through. If you understand psychology, you understand the pattern. You would see it, like you would step in. Like if you say you're spiritual and you see energy, then you would see what's going on here. And my kids have the right to, every other kid has, to go to Montessori, to go to charter schools. I was that dad out there hustling my ass off to make it happen. I had the money. Until this person's behavior, not my own, this person's behavior caused all this. This person's sexual endeavors causes this. This person's addiction to alcohol causes this. Daddy gave all that stuff up to become daddy. All right? And now, unfortunately, I feel like I have to leave here until this is over. Look, she has a TPO on me. Look, I'll get far, far away, okay? I'll go to Florida and I'll go help my friends out and I'll reboot my life and I'll go to the beach and I'll enjoy my life while y'all destroy my kids. And then when I rebuild, then what? You know, if what my lawyer said was correct, you just don't have enough money to play this game, then I'll just go get a bunch more money so I can come back and play the game more. But all I've ever wanted from day one was the custody arrangement to be looked at, because you gave my kids to an alcoholic, drug addict, who's borderline prostitution on the internet, and I have kids that have to grow up with that as a mom, as a figure. And you want them to have a normal friggin' life? So that's where the government has to become liable. I am that aware that I see in the future, you're costing me a lot of money in therapy. Is that fair? If I know how to shut it off now, in the 0 to 7 of my children, I'm being punished for knowing how to raise proper children with wealth principles, with gentleman and lady principles. That's where we're going back to regardless. So anybody who sees this video, please have that understanding. Like, where do you want this future to go? You want our young girls coming home at 11? I'm pregnant. All excited about it and shit, because I see it all over TikTok. 10-year-old little girls talking about my boyfriend this and my boy. Really? At 10? That's what this world's becoming, and we're letting it happen? I'm sorry that I'm one of the educators to try to slow that down and curve it. My kids don't need to be in public school. They want to be content creators. I'm their father, okay? By law, I think I should be allowed to say, hey, this is what my kids want to do, and this is what we're doing right now. All right? There's no rule that my kids have to go to a dumbed down foundation and be taken out of what they want in this life and get put in that unhappiness because of their mom's behavior. I could see if I was like her and I was out there partying, getting drunk and getting in trouble, and I'm not. I don't see any girls running away from the law because of me. I see a woman with problems that the government doesn't want to be responsible for, that you've dropped the ball since she's been a kid. You might have dropped the ball on me by not, like, hey, a little bit of coaching would have helped me a long way back then. Hey, get rid of the alcohol and your life would be better. That probably would have stuck. But no, we're all believing that we have to behave this way. And we don't, people. You're being tricked too. And I feel like I'm being punished because I know that. So if there's court dates coming up, that whatever, great. But I'm going to Florida. And I'm getting away from this nonsense. Because that's how bad I don't want any parts of that life. And I want the system to listen to me. I'm not a bad guy. I'm a good dude. I don't squish bugs. I don't want any parts of her behavior. And y'all gave my kids to her. I can't do anything about that. Y'all did that. But I can save my own sanity and get away from the witchcraft and just the things that I have to see. So I hope you watch this video with an open heart and an open mind. That yes, people make mistakes. And some people pay dearly for them. I understand that. Yeah, I used to be like that. I used to be a mess. But I cured it. I did everything a woman asked me to do in my life to be punished for it. So y'all get that one. And then all I've seen is woman after woman, attorney, guardian ad litem, like I'm being punished. Let's all let it go if I'm being punished. But, you know, my kids do not need to be raised in black magic. Like, I'm a spiritual teacher. And if this is where the world's going with awareness that I know of, then the government's going to be in a lot of trouble with a different breed of lawsuit coming. Because I can tell you that you're screwing up my kids' futures and you're costing me money for psychology. Right now, I can tell you that. And I can prove it with scientific evidence. This isn't right. All right, we have some parents that are willing to do it right, walk a straight line, have the best energy, and teach that to our kids. And we should be allowed to do that. And maybe that's what my story is to be heard. Maybe that's what my nonprofit is. Remember, I started a nonprofit because I see why my wife is suffering still, and it breaks my heart. And I don't want any other adults to keep having to go through that. Look, forget about a TPO. Look at this as a divorce. I haven't dated. I haven't broke my vows, sickness and health. Like, I stuck it out. I tried to keep helping a person to the day that she took out a knife and stabbed it in my back. I can't do anything about that knife. That's her choice. But I never brought her into the system. I never filed against her. I was letting her make her mistakes. And then I was going to see where we were at in the end of that. And the second my kids started saying they were getting hit, and I started asking questions, here we are. So y'all take that for what it is, the cycle, the repeat, the program. You're the court system. You should know by now, as many times you see people come back through. You're not done with them. She had one previous, he went to jail. Then another one, he went to jail. I mean, it's just a matter of time. And this too shall pass, and I'm a patient man. But I'm not going to feel like my freedoms and liberties are going to be stolen because of another person's behavior. I didn't do anything wrong to deserve this in the first place. I was a very present, aware father. I'm the guy studying about conscious parenting and where parenting has to go. I'm sorry I'm that guy, but it's who I am, and I'm very well educated. And I do believe that, if I took this case one step higher and any other judge would look at this, I think they would tear it apart and see just how bad like I do everything I do without vehicles, without cars, without luxuries. I live a right life. And not many people are willing to do that for their success, but I am. And then to have to still deal with this because a county allowed me to be extorted. And I'm still tied up in it. It's not like it's over and I have my kids back. I spent $10,000 on TPO. Who should have to do that? Especially when y'all know it was one piece of paper to file an appeal. It was my lawyer. I hired a lawyer. Why didn't she file that appeal? There's so many questions to this case that make no sense. Just like when I file contempts and you turn it into I did something wrong by getting my kids healthy. What do y'all want from us men out here? You want us to go fight and beat people up and get in trouble. We're not going to do that. But at the same time, when truth is involved and the truth is here that you're a really good dad being punished for somebody else's behavior, it's just not fair. And I hope this video maybe just opens up some eyes that, look, I've been to DFACS, I've been on phones with DFACS attorneys, I have submitted physical evidence all over the place, and there is nowhere for somebody like me to go to talk to anybody. I went to Men Stopping Violence, I went to so many dad groups, and everything is just figure it out. So this is me figuring it out. I give you the truth. I care about people. I never wanted any of this. I wanted to see a day where me and my wife were co-parenting, and I even offered her into the business many a times to try to work together to create a free life where we're always helping each other, I've seen people lie in this case, and just, are lies okay now in court? I heard a woman say she owned a business when she didn't. I was trying to get her involved in one. I was building one to give her, and she told me to go F myself. During this TPO, we have a letter that got sent home from me. At the time, I was making a lot of money, and the money was coming in to say, hey, I think we should let this dumb shit go, and we should partner up and open up a tint tattoo shop. But they couldn't do that because of their behavior. All right? Don't you understand? This just goes back to those two knuckleheads. And you're not done with my wife. You're done with me, though. I just wanted to put that out there. I'm done. There's a hearing in DeKalb in January for my divorce. I'll submit all the evidence that I have on what y'all allowed for my kids to experience, and we'll just go from there. But if there's a warrant on me right now for not paying $1,200 of money that you already stole from me, I think the government should be in trouble at that point, because that's just trying to steal my liberty now. I didn't do anything wrong that I should have had to pay another $1,200 and another I did what y'all said from the door. Judge Manning set it down. Well, actually, I had to hunt it down. Remember, if you go back through all this, the first guardian item was $7,000, and it was somebody who was in the Zoom group, and it was smirky, oh, this is funny. No, it wasn't funny to me. And then that went to $4,000 that I had to hunt them down. And for them to say, oh, we're going to investigate through cell phones. Now, come on, how many fathers who knew what was going on would have let that happen? That's why this case is so upside down and wrong. And how at the end of the day, I do think people should be sued and teach them lessons that there's more to life than money. Just like Sarah Riddle taking my case when she had no available time for it. Almost 2 hours away, I didn't even realize that. Like, I thought she was in Atlanta. And look, that's just like, that's what will happen to you in these moments when you're like trying to be the God guy. And then you just see people that just doing for themselves and not even caring about other people's situations. She didn't hear one word I ever said about the passion of it was the connection of my kids. Like, that's what, I don't want my kids to ever become that evil, that fight. And I this is where y'all have to understand now. I have a guardian light. I'm saying, I'll get your time made up. Like, I'm not doing this. I am not going to be that 4-day. No, I'm not being that. If y'all want to create that in this world, go right ahead. But I will have no parts of it. Okay? And that's why I'll move and I'll regroup. And I'll wait for her bombs to explode. And then I'll get my damn kids. Or a divorce judge will give me my kids. But this, I'm done. Ruined my life. Like, everything I worked towards. Just ripped down over somebody else wanting to cause other people problems because their life is still a problem. Like, look at the energy. Go follow her on social media. Look at her message. Look at mine. Totally different. But this is unfair. I'm broken inside because of this. Like, I didn't want any of this. I wanted to communicate, and then you all allow a person to run even further. Like, make any of the, like, how is this person allowed to do this? Unless the state just really wants to raise. I mean, come on. I'm a life coach. I see it for what it is. And remember that part. I'm a life coach. Don't see me as a window tinner. See the life coach in me. Because I promise you, most men that still drink, yeah, they would have been in front of judges for way worse stuff by now because of this case. How would you like to go pick up your little girl for the first time after not seeing her and watch the mom drive away laughing her ass off at you crying with your baby girl? A person that you fed and housed and took care of like one of your own for a decade. Laugh at you. And then as a man have to deal with the boyfriend every time to get your kids, taunting you. But I mean, that's okay. Spiritual dad want to teach light and love and energy to his kids. Borderline prostitution mom. Make it make sense.